Live.
We will call the meeting to order, and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Giovanna, if you'd please put the flag up. And if everyone would stand, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Okay, thank you. Giovanna, if you could do the roll call.
I would be happy to. Commissioner Held,
Here.
Commissioner Massey,
Here.
Commissioner Wolnick,
Here.
Chair Holm.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, and just to start the meeting, as a reminder, due to the physical distancing protocols in place at this time, we continue to encourage public participation remotely. Information on how to provide public comment is explained at the top and bottom of the published agenda. There are two ways to participate. You can join the Zoom meeting by clicking on the link at the top of the agenda. Use the raise your hand button to be called on at the appropriate time. And please unmute yourself only when called upon. If you're calling in by phone, that could be done, or if you'd like to call in by phone, that could be done by calling 408-638-0968 and entering conference ID 870-1288-3872. That's 870-1288-3872 and passcode 745143. Again, 745143. Anyone calling in by phone, press *9 to raise your hand to be called upon and *6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. So we will now proceed to the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from March 3rd, 2021?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Can we have a roll call, Giovanna?
Yes, Chair Holm. Let's start with Commissioner Massey,
Aye.
Commissioner Wolnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Held,
Aye.
Chair Holm.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion has passed 4-0.
Okay. And we will open the meeting up to public comment at this point. Persons wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the commission at this time. State law prevents commission from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. And I will note, we have had a really engaged skateboarding community that has come to make public comment. Skateboarding is on the agenda, or skate parks is one of the items discussed as part of the agenda item. So now is not the time to discuss anything related to skate parks. So with that, if we have public comment for items not on the agenda, and tonight we're talking about the capital improvement program for the next 5 years. I see a hand from Ryan Motzek. Ryan?
Hi, I just want to make sure that it's clear that skateboarders will be able to talk today. And because I think that might have confused some people and they might think, oh, I need to like leave because we can't speak today. I just want to make that clear. That's all.
No, that is correct. We have skate park funding is one of the items that will be discussed, or skate park capital improvements. And so that would be the time for skaters or people interested in skate parks or any other capital improvement item to participate at that point. And we will go through the presentation. We will have questions from commissioners, and then we'll open up to public comment at that point. And so it will be in a little bit.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments for any item not on the agenda? Okay, I'm not seeing any. And with that, we will go to new business, which is the proposed 2021 to 2026 Department Capital Improvement Program. And Sheila, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you, commissioners. So can everyone see my screen? Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
thank you again. You know, every year we try to update the commission on our proposed 5-year capital improvement program. Every other year, we do a little bit more in-depth analysis of our needs and also our funding sources. And so this is one of those years. And so I just wanted to give a brief overview of the information that was included in your packet. So again, as indicated in the report, our park in lieu and park impact fees estimates are really based on the best information that we have as of March 1st. And I think, as most of the commissioners know, they are not guarantees. Staff does a lot of due diligence by actually contacting many of the developers and finding out the status of their projects. We're in constant contact with our planning staff. But as all of you who have been on the commission for a number of years understand that, you know, we make our best estimates based upon the information that we are given, but that none of the figures that we are shown are guaranteed income. So I think that there's always, in some people's minds, a bit of a disconnect that shows money being funded for future improvements, when in fact those are really placeholders based upon the total amount of money that we get. Typically, I think our revenue projections for the first 2 years from 21-23 really appear more likely. Those are typically projects that have been approved that are just really waiting in many cases to pull their permits. And so the first year, couple years numbers, I think we feel more comfortable with. The later years in numbers in years 3 through 5 are really considered preliminary. Some of those projects have not yet been approved, and so they're in the pipeline. And of course, it may take several years for them to actually break ground. So that's why you'll notice in the chart that had all of our projects that we have a number of projects in years 3 through 5 that have higher amounts budgeted to them. And I think those are really because as we look ahead, assuming that our projections are correct, that there are significant amounts of money that may be coming in, at least projected in years 3 through 5. So again, I think we feel relatively comfortable with the first couple of years, but obviously things can change within that time. I think our primary focus remains on playground rehabilitation projects and the implementation of the Central Park Master Plan Phase 1 implementation. Those continue to be high priority projects for us. And I will share some pictures with you just to have you all get a sense of the condition of some of our playgrounds and why we feel those are priorities. We have added some funding in the out years for special facilities upgrades and also for skate plaza rehabilitation. So other than placeholders at this time, we don't have any specific projects. And because they are not budgeted within the first year, we're not going to be starting any work on those until later in the process. And then our out-year funding also identified money for a third synthetic turf sports field conversion. We've had very good success with the 2 that we have at Los Prados and King, and also beginning to set aside some money for our recreation facility strategic plan in terms of trying to make some improvements to our recreation center facilities that I know most of you and many of you who toured our facilities a number of years ago as part of that realized that those facilities are now between 50 and 60 years old, with the exception of our senior center. So we do have a lot of capital improvement needs. Unfortunately, we don't always have the amount of capital funding to be able to match that. So let me just give you a sense in terms of our projects. This is East Hillsdale Park. As you can see, I indicate here that some of the equipment is pre-1970. I suspect that some of the equipment is really pre-1950, just based on the age and the type of structures that they are. The last time that the playground was renovated was in 1997. Playgrounds generally have a lifespan of around 20 years before we reach the point where it becomes very difficult to find replacement pieces if anything was to happen. Also, as you can see in this case, many of these older pieces of equipment still have sand underneath them, which is no longer considered a safe surface. And so we are currently working on designs for East Hillsdale Park. And so we'll be ready to share those designs with members of the community here shortly. But I know this one's been on our list for a while, and I just wanted to indicate that we are actively working on this and hope to have this under construction within the next year or so. The other one is Sunnybray Playground, again, 1994. So it's well beyond its 20 years. And I think we need to consider that by the time these projects are started, these playgrounds will be somewhere between 25 and 27 years old. Again, just a sense of the structures that are currently there, continued use of sand, and then a little bit, in terms of some of the amenities that we have in the playground right now. Next is Shoreview Playground, again, 1996, so well beyond its 20 years. You can see some pictures of some well-worn benches in that area, and also some of the condition of some of the equipment. Again, this has been on our list for a number of years. We've not started any active work on either the Sunnybray or the Shoreview Playground. But as you see in the chart, we are starting to set aside more funding for those, so that at the time that we do get to renovation, that we hope to have sufficient amounts of money. I think in general, if you look at the playground, the size of a Shoreview, in today's dollars, we're probably looking at close to $1 million for a renovation. So these are not inexpensive projects to undertake. And certainly when we start talking about the Central Park master plan, where we have a very, very large playground, we're really talking about more in the neighborhood of probably $8 to $10 million to renovate the Central Playground. This is Washington Playground, again, 1997. I think after seeing this picture, I'm particularly concerned about the condition of the basketball court. I think we may be to the point where we're maybe having to close that facility just because of safety issues. We'll try to work with our Public Works Department and see whether or not they might be able to do some patching in the interim. But again, you can kind of see the condition of at least the basketball court and one of the pieces of equipment out at Washington Playground. Los Prados, again, also 1997. I mean, I think that sometimes pictures are a little bit deceiving. You might look at the pictures and say, well, it sort of looks okay. I think many of the designs that were standard back in 1997 are no longer standards today. And so we continue to inspect our playgrounds on a regular basis, and we do look for ongoing safety issues, and we do work with our Public Works Department to try and get those fixed. But certainly when you look at this type of playground and look at probably the most recent one that we did was out at Laurie Meadows about 3 years ago, you'll notice a significant difference in terms of the type of equipment that is being spec'd today. And then of course we have Central Park. And again, I say pre-1970 for that older area. I would say that's probably more pre-1940s. And the last time that this play structure was replaced was 1994. So again, all of these playgrounds are well beyond the 20 or 25 years. And that's why from a priority standpoint, these are the highest priority projects for us. We did hear some public comment over the last couple of months about the condition of our skate plazas at Beresford and Shoreview. We did go out and take a look at it. And I think, as you can see, we are beginning to see some wearing of the surfaces. We've got some pock marks in the cement on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you can actually see where the cement top has really gone down to the aggregate, which is underneath. And so we think that these are not currently unsafe, but I think that our desire would be to resurface them. And in the process, if there is an opportunity to make any improvements within the amount of money that we've set aside, that we will currently do that. But again, this is not a project that is funded at least for the next year. One of the other projects I mentioned was trying to look at a third synthetic turf field. We still have 2 locations that were identified as part of the original plan for synthetic turf conversion. One of those is Fiesta Meadows. That's still a natural turf field. And then over at Bayside Joinville, in the area where the softball field is. And so I think what we certainly have found with both Los Prados and King is that, they are really playable all year round. The project at King, because the field that was there previously was actually watered using well water, we did not incur any significant water savings when this field went in, but certainly at both a Fiesta Meadows and at a Los Prados, at a Bayside Joinville, we would be able to incur significant water savings by moving to synthetic turf. I think, we recognize that the synthetic turf products have dramatically improved over the year. The synthetic turf field at King, the infill mix is all organic. And I think we've indicated that's going to be our standard moving forward. So I do think that we have an opportunity at one of those fields to continue to make improvements that will certainly not only save water, but also remove a lot of the maintenance that goes on in terms of having to take care of those fields. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We also have Ron Hospick here, who is our Parks and Landscape Manager, who can certainly answer any questions. I did not try to put up on the screen the attached chart that was part of it. I think it just becomes very difficult to read very small numbers. But that kind of gives you an idea of how we are spreading out the money based upon the estimates that we have received. And again, these are estimates at this point. And while we hope that all of these projects will come to fruition, we can't always know that for sure. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions from commissioners.
Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Wolnick.
Sure. Okay, so my first question is on the, where was it? The special citywide special facilities upgrade. What exactly is involved in that?
So it's a bit of a catch-all project. So the last time that we used it, we did improvement work to the Japanese garden pond, for example, because it was leaking. We did a lot of work to the southern half of the pond. We did not get to the northern part. And so that may be a project that we would consider as part of that special facilities upgrade. So it's a bit of a placeholder at this point.
So is it for kind of urgent needs or things that kind of come up that you don't anticipate?
It could be for those kinds of things, or again, if there is a facility within a park that is not a playground that we think really needs renovation, that is not part of the public works work that they do, then we would use that money for that.
Okay. And then my other question is about sort of the process for setting priorities. Does that generally come, just discussions within your staff? Do you get any direction from city council? Do you have any public input in that? How does that work?
So it generally, I mean, many of these projects, particularly the playground projects, have been on the list for a number of years, and we're just really adding money to them every
Mhm.
year because we know that the 200,000 or 300,000 that we set aside in 1 year is not going to come anywhere close to rebuilding a playground. So many of them, we continue to just simply set aside money so that when we do get to it, we have a sufficient amount of money. Many of them are comments, as we've gotten from the public, about areas that we believe or the public believes needs renovation. But generally, the priorities don't change much simply because we're just simply trying to amass the money that we need when we eventually get to do the project.
Okay. I have one more question, but I forgot what it is. So maybe I'll raise my hand when I remember and let somebody else ask the questions first.
Sounds
I
good.
remember. Raise my hand. So the nonprofit, the Friends of the Parks and Rec, I know you've mentioned before that they generally kind of do fundraising for specific things, but I really haven't heard or seen where that ends up in my time on the commission. Has there been anything that they've really worked on in the last 4 years, or can we leverage that anymore to get some of these things done a little faster?
So the one project, or the last major project that they undertook, was raising money for the Beresford Playground. And we sold tribute bricks as part of the entry into the playground. So that was the last significant project that they raised money for. Their fundraising efforts primarily depend upon sales from this Central Park Music Series, the beer and wine booth. Generally, on a good year, it raises somewhere between $18,000 and $20,000. So it's not a significant amount of money. They are very generous about funding smaller projects. Do we need a piece of equipment inside a rec center or something like that? But they've not undertaken any significant capital campaigns since the Beresford project.
Okay, and I guess I'm just wondering if there's anything we on the commission can do to help that effort.
I think there is. I can't speak for the foundation. Again, they've been pretty dormant this last year simply because their primary fundraising activity went away last year. So, I would be happy to put any of you in touch with Cliff Robbins. Many of you know Cliff. He was a former Park and Recreation Commissioner. He's now on the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission. He's the chair of the foundation. I'd be happy to connect any of you with Cliff for a further discussion about the role of the foundation.
Yeah, I would like that.
Okay, thanks. Happy to do that.
Okay, that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wolnick. Next, we'll go to Commissioner Held.
I had the same questions as Commissioner Wolnick, and I appreciate you all sharing this. And I too would love to find ways we could help. I mean, this seems like it's critical and important and timely work, and want us to be helpful in that process. The one other question I had too, just a number that jumped out at me, was the Laurelwood Sugarloaf Mountain fiscal year 23-24 coming in at 5 million. I was just more curious, kind of what is driving that in those years and what that looks like.
So that's identified as an unfunded project. There is no money set aside for that. That is for the next phase of a couple things. One is the next phase of trail projects. And there is a project that we have not done, which is trying to truly connect the San Mateo Laurelwood with the San Juan Canyon back to Belmont. So a good portion of that was an estimate of what that was going to cost to make those connections. The other thing is that as part of the Sugarloaf master plan and management plan is an ability to sort of look at when you drive by Sugarloaf, you see a number of large, wide path swaths that were cut years ago for fire breaks. That's no longer the management plan for that area. And so part of it is really looking at restoring many of those large fire break paths that are no longer necessary.
Mhm. Got it. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Held. Commissioner Massey.
Thank you. I just have one question really, although it covers a lot of the projects. I'm looking at the projections on the all of the play areas, and I see that the number of years that we project funding or for them varies from one to the next. Is that an indication of estimated completion dates for the projects? In other words, if we took, I don't know, take East Hillsdale, it's got funding in every year through 24, 25. But if you look at Sunnybray, there's only funding in the 21, 22 year. Washington, there's through 24. Is that an indication of expected timelines on the project? In each case?
I think it is primarily a bit of a timeline. The other thing that this form does not do, and I think it's a flaw that we recognize and we want to be able to correct next year, and that is that this does not show previous set-asides that are already in some of these projects that we have set aside in previous budgets. So this is only money moving forward. So I think that in some of these, there may be more money already set aside than what this estimates. But so I do think that to the extent that it is a bit of a projected timeline, I think that's probably correct.
Okay, and then does that mean that your totals column over on the far right, does that reflect the expected total cost of each project?
That's the amount of money that is budgeted in those columns. It does not reflect any money that we had previously set aside for it.
Oh, okay, so in other words, it's possible that the project cost in each case is going to be more than that total that you're showing.
It's possible. So I think that that's why these are just an estimates at this point, because we've not done any design work on really any of these. We're only sort of going off of what is the typical playground cost and the square footage of what the playground size is.
Ah, okay, yeah. So, and then I guess we would be in each case applying what you've said in terms of, I guess it's the first 2 years are where you're more confident about those numbers, and then the out years would be the last 3 where it's more estimate and maybe less confidence.
Correct. And I think, as much as I'd say that we have confidence in the first 2 years, I think that it's only based upon the information that we are given. And if a project gets delayed or the developer decides not to go through with it, then that may push the project out further in terms of when we would actually get the money. Or in some cases, we have been assuming projects in the past that the planning application has now expired. And so we just don't, whatever we thought was going to be there now becomes a 0.
And then we end up having a discussion about what projects will be deferred or modified or whatever to match the funding that is actually available at any given time.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Massey. Let me first say that Sunny Bray Playground, can't get the words out, is my daughter's favorite. And so you better build it really quickly because she's gonna be really upset when it's closed. And then I just wanted to just kind of reiterate a couple things that kind of reflect on some of the questions that our other commissioners had. One is the Sugarloaf Project master plan. I think that dates back to about 2014 or 2015. And it's just getting on the budget and it's unfunded at that. So I think that just reflects there's sort of the need assessment, and then there's the planning, and then there's how does it get implemented, and it's it definitely is a very long process because we aren't flush with money. And I mean, I know Sheila would love to do all of these projects on the list every single year and have these gorgeous parks, but she has to balance that out. The whole department does. And I know you typically review all park facilities every year, and that's kind of how, we've talked about playgrounds every single year, and there's, you sort of whittle away at them each year. But I do want to highlight one of your comments, which was that you did pay specific attention to the skate park conditions based on public comment, and you kind of went out and gave it some additional thought and consideration. And so we've had several skateboarders come in the past meetings, and I know several will probably speak tonight. I do want to say that I appreciate them coming to the meetings and giving comment, because that did help at least move the needle one way or the other as far as identifying some priorities or some potentially not realized needs. And so I think we are always appreciative of the public coming and giving comment. But one of the things is, this is a budget for fiscal year 21. The first one is next year, and you've got Sugarloaf Mountain, for example, is unfunded. So where does how does a project have budget when it's unfunded, and or where is the money coming from? Is this something that we're wishing or hoping that council has extra money and gives you more money, or how do you foresee an unfunded project getting funded, or is that just basically just keeps getting rolled forward to the next year until we find money?
So I think the latter. I think it does get rolled forward to the future. If you look in the city's printed budget that will be coming out in May, in the back, there is a whole capital improvement section. There is a whole section on the city's unfunded capital improvement projects. And so there is, I think, some encouragement on the part of our city manager and finance director to try and put projects out there so that the public and the council understands the magnitude of what the unfunded amount is. And that's on a citywide basis. And, if money drops from trees and there's money to fund unfunded projects, then at least we have an established list from a citywide basis that we would go to. So, and I think particularly in a project like a Sugarloaf and Laurelwood, I mean, it's possible, and again, I don't say this with any knowledge, but I mean, if state parks, if California comes up with another state parks bond in the next 2 or 3 years, and there becomes grant money available, many of those are targeted to very specific type of projects, and generally they don't target your typical playground renovation. Many of them are around, watershed improvements and open space. And so if grant funding opportunities become available, then again, we'd be able to look and say we have a project that we think may fit something like that.
Okay. Thank you. And then kind of along the same lines, but kind of to reiterate, since essentially we're operating on what is effectively a shoestring capital budget. And you indicate we're only doing rehabilitation. That means all of our real capital improvement projects, they're just still sitting on a list, and there's not a mechanism, as much as we would love to make them happen without the dollars. And so I'm kind of saying that for the public, because I know there's gonna be comments about that. And I think that's the struggle we have every year when we look at this.
And I think just to comment, Commissioner Holm, in terms of that, while certainly playgrounds are our priority simply because they are in our parks, they are used on a constant basis, and they become a safety issue for us. I think from the department's perspective, the biggest unfunded capital improvement needs are within our recreation facility strategic plan, where we have pools that are between 50 and 60 years old. And at some point, if those don't become replaced and we are no longer able to repair them, then essentially we will be out of the aquatics business. And so again, I know a number of commissioners have been on the commission for a number of years where you took tours of our facilities and saw the conditions of them, where we are concerned about over at the King Gymnasium, we don't have any run out space in a gymnasium. You know, we have 2 feet or 3 feet from the end of the basketball court to the wall. And so I think there are a number of those safety issues. They're not apparent all the time. It's not like there's a broken slide or something in a playground that can get easily repaired. Those are big dollar projects. But I think from a needs perspective, those are the most critical needs moving forward. And,
Okay.
and I will say with certainty, those are not going to be funded through park in lieu and park impact fees.
Yeah, there's just the magnitude's too great.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's all my questions. With that, we will turn over to public comments about this item. I know there were some hands that were up earlier. I'm seeing, okay, Ryan is the first one. So Ryan, if you would like to speak, please do so now. And Ryan, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much for taking the time to give us a chance to talk about skateboarding. I know that you've been seeing some recent visits from us lately, but this need has been, it's been a need for well over a decade. And there's been lots of outreach to the Parks and Rec Commission, City Council, with very little guidance. As a business owner and a former vice president of the Downtown San Mateo Association, I didn't even know that skateboarding was on the agenda today. And don't want to point the finger at anyone, but as a long-term, some business owner in San Mateo and someone that served for the city, that to me was surprising that there was no outreach on that level. It seems like all the responsibility is on the skate community to kind of figure out and navigate with very little direction. But with that said, I really do appreciate that we're talking about this. I found it interesting that there was photos of Beresford, but not the Shoreview Park. Beresford is not really a high priority, and it's not really, I wouldn't say the condition is of concern. It's actually just the park was designed really, really poorly. The Shoreview Skate Park, there is some improvements needed. And I think that's the part that should be looked at. But I think the real need, or not that I know that the real need is a new skate park. And I think there needs to be a discussion around that. And I think it should be an agenda item. Sorry, I'll correct myself. I know it should be an agenda item. And we need to have a real talk about skateboarding, how it's evolving and picking up, and how the community is really feeling underrepresented and somewhat suppressed. So please give the skateboarders a chance, and please take this seriously, because this is a really, really big deal. And I know that skateboarders have this rebellious kind of reputation. And if you look at the latest San Mateo Daily Journal cover, or not the latest, but the one that Atlas was featured on, you'll see that there's a lot of community service going on, and there's a lot of good happening in the skateboarding community. And I think San Mateo should get behind it rather than fall behind. So that's my comment for now, and I'd love to hear what everyone else has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Next, we'll have Adam Lorraine.
Yes, good evening, commissioners and staff, and thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Adam Lorraine. I, for full disclosure, am a sustainability and infrastructure commissioner with the city of San Mateo, but I am speaking tonight as a private resident of 15 to 20 years in the San Mateo and 20 plus years in the county. I wanted to thank the commission and staff for funding repairs and updates to Shoreview and Beresford skate parks, in addition to a number of the other park renovations being discussed tonight. I just wanted to mention that personally, I have had more interactions with the skate community recently, including Mr. Motzik, who just spoke at Atlas. And he mentioned to me that the skating community is exploding. It sounds like they're having some opportunities to interact with this commission, which is great. And indeed, we're seeing an example of that impact tonight. And I haven't personally conducted a scientific survey on the size of this community, how it might compare with other stakeholders in this broader look at fulfilling the needs of people in our city. But it doesn't necessarily shock me that indeed we might have a larger community with some unmet needs. You know, biking, for example, is up during this pandemic time. And so I can see how a number of people might be looking toward ways to get out and use various methods of, you know, transit and recreation more so now than before. And I've seen a lot of people at the Burlingame Point or Oculus building sort of area, for those of you who may have gotten a chance to see that extension of the Bay Trail. A lot of people and skaters are enjoying that facility, and I imagine some would be interested in having something like that in San Mateo. So I just think surely that's a much larger project, but I hope that if we indeed have this growing community with unmet needs, that we have opportunities to connect it to the city input process that feeds into these budget processes in a responsible way that weights them and their needs and impact with that of all the other stakeholders we have in our city. So looking forward to learning more about opportunities like that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Adam. And while we don't necessarily comment directly, as a commissioner on the infrastructure, if you guys have some extra dollars and want to throw them over to us, we'll be happy to take them. Next, we have Patrick.
Yeah, hi. Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick. I spoke at the last meeting and just wanted to reiterate what's been said by Ryan and the last speaker. We're very the skateboard community is very thankful for the notice that we've got and the funding that's currently being directed to the repairs at the two skate parks. I wanted to reiterate what Ryan said, that the focus should definitely be on Shoreview and maybe not Beresford. And also just wanted to reiterate that the need is greater than just repairs to the two skate parks. As someone who grew up in San Mateo, would just like to see that taken a little more seriously. But thank you for the notice so far, and hope we can see some more changes and progress happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Next, we'll have Michael Managis.
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you for taking my call. I am Michael Manitas. I've called in a few times. I'm the individual that runs the skateboard instruction program for the city's Parks and Rec department. I also would like to put my voice into, I hear loud and clear, there is only money for repairs right now and no money for new projects. That's understood. Yes, some improvement could be done to both of those parks. Beresford's pretty much just terrible. Shoreview has potential but needs a lot of work. But really, I would like personally to see a modern skate plaza being implemented into the master plan for Central Park. I think that would make San Mateo a progressive city. We are in Silicon Valley, and it's an amenity that is really expected and should be there for the citizens, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next, we have Jay Spiro.
Hello, everyone. First, I wanted to thank all the commissioners and the director for being public servants. Anyone who steps into that role, deserve respect and appreciation from the community. Also, let me start by introducing myself. I used to work at a skateboard shop in San Mateo, not Atlas, but one that was there before. Obviously, I know Atlas very well and everyone that works there, and they do wonderful work for the community, in addition to bringing in lots of tax revenue to the city of San Mateo. And these are stand-up people that are doing really good work for their community. And so I really appreciate to hear some of the guys from Atlas calling in. My comments are going to kind of echo what you've heard before. So I'm an 8th grade teacher, and I know that children these days need facilities and they deserve to have public dollars spent on them. I also have a toddler, and so I understand the need to update playgrounds. I think that's a great idea. I don't really understand why money can't be earmarked for a new skate park. I know that San Mateo is fairly awash in property tax dollars currently, and these investments actually bring more money into the community because people that use the facilities buy things and goods and services in San Mateo, and that brings in tax revenue. Beresford Skate Park is a terribly designed skate park, and I would highly encourage to sink no more money into that location. It is what it is. It's barely even used. Shoreview, yeah, I could use some improvements, but I do think that spending money on resurfacing and things like that isn't really money well spent. We need a new skate park. We need a state-of-the-art skate park. San Mateo is a state-of-the-art city. It should have a state-of-the-art skate park that the citizens and people in the area can use. It's going to be beneficial because it's going to give kids something to do, something outdoors that's safe during COVID and after COVID. Yeah, I just really wanted to reiterate that San Mateo needs a new skate park. And I think that spending money on trying to give a facelift to the other skate parks that are already there doesn't really seem to make sense. I do support putting money into playgrounds. I was a little bit shocked to hear that Shoreview Playground is going to need $1 million to be upgraded. That I don't understand the economics of that. That said, it's outside of my area of expertise. I sincerely hope that the commission will listen to the community and work with the community on putting a state-of-the-art facility in Central Park. This would make San Mateo go from being a great city to an even better city. So thank you for your time. And again, thanks for doing what you do. I know a lot of it's thankless work, and we definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Jake London.
Yeah, hi, how's it going? My name's Jake London. I was born in San Mateo. I'm a lifelong skateboarder, and I'm also the Northern California sales rep for some of the top brands in the industry, such as Santa Cruz Skateboards. And I'm also an avid user of the Shoreview skate park, so thank you for that one. I do appreciate the thought for improvements, but I do agree with the previous speakers that I think the money could be better spent on a new, more modern, possibly larger skate park, simply to keep up with the demand. From 2020 alone, there was 2 million new skateboarders in the US. I'm seeing it on a daily level through my job. I know Ryan and Mike got to be seeing it as well. And it's just, I think that would be a better use of the money. I also used to teach a lot of skateboard lessons in camps, and I can't tell you the positive effects that skateboarding has on the youth. With confidence, determination, simply learning trial and error. And especially during COVID, skateboarding is a very socially distant, friendly activity where kids can also be social, but also be safe. And I just would greatly appreciate your consideration in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. Next, we'll have Ian Craig.
Hi, thank you for your time and your service to the community. I definitely want to echo what the previous speakers have said about, we appreciate the thought to improve existing parks, but I think that we definitely have some unmet demand as far as a new skate park that is a little bit more modern. I grew up skateboarding all up and down the peninsula. I didn't live in San Mateo at any time, but definitely have spent a lot of money there and would like to continue to do so at a new skate park that kind of matches what the rest of the country is doing. And also, skateboarding will be in the Olympics next time it comes around. So I think it's definitely a growing sport and there's plenty of evidence of that. So thanks again.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Andrew Dolberg.
Hello, my name is Andrew. I wanted to thank you for giving us a chance to speak here in your meeting. I am born and raised here in San Mateo. I've grown up skating here since I was a kid. I frequently skate Shoreview on a weekly basis. And like others have said, Beresford is poorly designed, and putting any more money into it would be a waste in a sense. Improving Shoreview would help, but I agree we do need a new facility, something modern, something I just wanted to reiterate that. I think that it would get great use and it would bring a lot of outside community into San Mateo and spending money in the downtown facility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Next, we have Wilser.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay, you can hear me. Yeah, I just wanted to say a lot of the same things too, as a lot of people said. I've been skating for a while now, and I think it's time for a new skate park. And overall, I think it's just a good activity for like kids to learn, because I don't think there's like another activity where you actually fail more than you succeed. And like that whole like thing about learning from your failures and learning to get up when you fall down is a good life skill for any kid. So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a excellent idea to get a new park. And yep, that's all I gotta say.
Thank you. Next, we have Jenner VO.
Following a similar pattern, I'd also like to state that the importance of a new park is undeniable. I've skated for a while as well, and growing up in the San Mateo Bay Area, it's just it's starting to feel a little crowded. All the new skateboarders that have started and are really lackluster skate parks are just not keeping up with everything that's happening right now with this pandemic and everything. It's kind of difficult to follow the regulations and everything with so many people wanting to skate. And there's almost like never a day where it's like not packed to the brim. So yeah, I just like to state the importance of a new park. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Daniel Palarca.
Hello, everyone. Just to reiterate what everyone's been saying, well, I want to introduce myself first. I'm a Beresford local and a college student here in San Mateo, and I grew up here. And although it would be good for modifications to be done to the local parks, I think it would really just be great to have a new park entirely in Central Park, because all the other ones are kind of just so far gone. And I don't want to beat a dead horse and say what everybody else was saying, but like, yeah, it really is important to get that done for the community and for not the skate community alone, but just like the children and other people that want to get out and have something to do. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. And I do not see any other comments. Oh, we have one last one from Drew.
Hi there. I just was wondering, listening to all these public comments, I thought there was a skate park at like 42nd and El Camino for a while. I don't know if that was a city thing or a private thing. There was like a city-owned lot there, and this goes back, I don't know, 10 years. I can't remember why it got taken out and stuff. And just given the discussion, maybe just a minute or two, what was that all about would be handy, because yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And Jack. Jack, I believe you're still muted. Jack, you're still muted.
I'm trying to unmute.
There we go.
But I have this new. Yeah, is that working?
Yes.
Sorry, everyone. I got this new audio system that's not working right. Okay. I was trying to think of something that was not just reiterating what everyone else said, but I couldn't come up with anything. I'm a skateboarder. I'm 40 years old. I've been skateboarding since I was 13. I have a PhD in mathematics, Bay Area resident for a long time, Redwood City part of that time, skated to Shoreview a bunch, skated Bearsford once, never went back. Tons of new skate parks all up and down California and across the country. It makes sense to me that San Mateo would want to invest in a new skate park for its community as well. I'll stop there and thank you everyone for your work in the city and supporting the local community.
Thank you. And we have no more public comments, so I think we've heard from everybody that's here. I do see we have one phone-in caller. To reiterate, if the phone-in caller would like to comment, I think you press, I think it's *9. If I can get back to my directions. *9 to raise your hand. Otherwise, I'm not seeing any other comment, and so we will close the public comment period, and we will go back to commissioner comments. So I will turn again to Commissioner Wolnick.
Hi, thanks. I want to thank everyone for coming in and speaking. We don't get it a lot until recently, and it's great to hear people. I want to kind of bring up the idea of surveying stakeholders. I think Adam kind of referenced it a bit, but I think I'm at a loss right now to really understand how our parks are being used, how people want to use them, the different basketball courts. You had a picture of the basketball court that's falling away or falling apart, and I have absolutely no idea how often it's used. I mean, is it worth putting the money in to rehabilitate it? And I'm assuming some of this happens as you're going through this planning process, Sheila, but I'm just wondering if you could talk to that about, have you ever kind of undertook a bigger process of just trying to figure out how the community is shifting, like skateboarding is becoming more popular, that kind of thing?
So I think that to answer, have we undertaken a significant community survey simply relative on park needs? The answer is no. Last year, the city did a community-wide survey that included about 7 or 8 questions about park and recreation facilities and what people wanted and their priorities. And so we were able to glean some information from that. Every year we do put out a park survey that we post on the internet, and we put out information to the homeowner associations and through social media to say, let us know the parks that you use, let us know the facilities that you frequent. And so the last few years, I think we've been getting over 400 people responding to those surveys. And so to the extent that that at least gives us a sense of what people are using, we've not gone park by park and tried to say how many people use a basketball court or how many people use a tennis court. That's certainly possible, but that's not something that we've done on a regular basis.
Yeah, I guess I mean, having sat on this commission for a while and participating a little bit in the general plan process, I'm just kind of, I don't know, I think realistically, the surveys don't get many responses. I mean, it's great that you got 400, but you know, we hear the loudest voices. We hear the skateboarders coming. We hear, you know, the golfers when something was actually going to happen, they showed up in force, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I'm wondering if maybe counting users is a good way to go, because I'm not sure the surveys are necessarily picking up everything. I mean, I think it's a great start. Just that's my 2 cents. And then I also, you know, reflecting back on what a lot of the skateboarders have said here is, I think maybe more some thought on cost comparisons between getting a new park versus rehabilitating the ones you have. I will say I did speak with Ryan offline about this. He was really helpful and informative about skateboarding, which I know basically nothing about. And one of the things that stuck with me that he said was that you don't need a whole lot of space for a good park. And I think it's really worth having more discussions about that and really see like what the cost of that looks like, so that we have a comparison on that. Other than that, I mean, I think your plan of getting a line to tell us how much things are funded it would be really, really helpful. And then I also would speak to the skating community, and I think you've all heard here that money is really the issue. So I would encourage you to look at any avenue you can, reach out to the Parks and Rec Foundation, do some, you know, plan some fundraising on your own, you know, work with Sheila on that, not necessarily on the fundraising, but like, what is the need? But that's going to be the biggest hurdle when we get there, is the money. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Held.
Also, thanks for this. I think the plan definitely makes sense and is practical, and I'm excited we're making these investments. And I'm concerned that we have playgrounds that are over 20 years old. That is shocking when you see some of that. So this all makes sense. And I too, again, would echo what Commissioner Wolnick said, just in terms of getting people involved. I just wonder, from where I sit in the Baywood community, I know so many parents and families have strong opinions about the parks, but don't actually get involved to kind of, communicate what they want or how they can help. And I just wonder, again, for what it's worth, how do we rally more of that? Not only input, but what can they be doing to address some of those financial gaps as well? Probably easier said than done, but I think there is an opportunity there, and I would love to explore that a bit more. But this all sounds great and is great work, and appreciate being brought in, and also love that the skateboarders showed up. I wish more people would do that. I think it's tremendous. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Commissioner Massey. You're still muted.
Yeah, I know. I had to get the arrow over. Well, I want to join my fellow commissioners in thanking the speakers who came out tonight. As I think they both mentioned, it's not a normal phenomenon for our commission, and we are delighted to see it. And in the broader sense, I think that trying to elicit more public involvement in the parks generally, and in the interest of the skateboarding community in promoting a new skating park. I think that whatever they can do in terms of putting together for this Parks Department to see and for us to see some sense of how the broader community feels about park utilization, about skateboarding versus other things would be very helpful both to the council and to the Park and Recreation Department. If you look at this budget, and with which I'm in agreement, I think it should be sent on for review and inclusion in the budget to be approved by the council. But if you look at it, really what we have, and I think somebody pointed that out as we were going along here, is a repairs and maintenance budget is really what we've got. If you look at the money, the playgrounds in particular, basically, we're not talking about so much about building something new. We're talking about refurbishing and making investments necessary to extend the life and the utility of existing projects. And I think if I haven't gone back to do it just now while we've been meeting, but I think if you were to take that budget and you were to split it into the category of investments I've described, and then the portions of the budget that actually talk about new projects, I think what you'd find is that the bulk of the money is being appropriated for what amount to repairs and maintenance, and that the new projects are in large measure unfunded. And it just, and I say all of this just to sort of highlight our dilemma, the city's dilemma, the project, the department's dilemma. And that is, there is just not a lot of money for anything new. And so finding ways to generate funding is really critical to building something like a new skateboard park. One of the public commenters made the comment that San Mateo was awash in property tax revenues. And Sheila, I know you're not in the finance department, but perhaps you could comment on that, because that is not my impression of San Mateo's finances. I think if anything, we're kind of in the opposite position, that there's concern about deficits, there's concern about shortfalls, and that money, in fact, is tight.
So I'll just speak very broadly in terms of that. I think that certainly the members of this commission knows that the only source of money that the department has for park capital improvements is park in lieu and park impact fees. We don't get any general fund money. And so things like property tax and sales tax and hotel tax, all of that money flows into the general fund that then goes to fund department operations in general, like the police department and the libraries and parks and recreation and public works and everything else. So there is very little general fund money that is spent on citywide capital improvements. And again, with very, very few exceptions over the years, I can't think of many general funded park improvements that have come our way. So we really are very reliant on the park impact and park in lieu fees to fund our own projects.
So I don't want to be the spoil sport or the one to throw cold water on things, but I think the hard truth is that San Mateo is not in a situation where it can say, we see a need for X, so we'll just do it. There, the new things that have come along over the years, and I'm thinking beyond Parks and Rec, have come slowly and with a lot of financial pain involved because of the general, the city's general fiscal situation. So those are my comments on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Massey. I'll reiterate what my fellow commissioners have said, and I also will say that I appreciate this presentation tonight and this plan, and I support it. And I will say that I also appreciate the skateboard community coming to our meeting and continue to come, and I encourage you to continue to come. We, as my fellow commissioners have mentioned, we don't usually have this kind of public engagement, and we actually enjoy it. I think the only time I haven't enjoyed it was when the golf community came, when it was the first time the Warriors were in the finals of the playoffs, and we missed the game because there were so many public comments. The only time that I have not enjoyed a big crowd. So thank you very much for coming. And also, like Commissioner Wolnick, I spoke with Ryan, and I appreciate him reaching out and educating me on some more of the growth and depth of the community. And so I think that your continued advocacy is a good thing. I see on the matrix of upcoming things that we're going to talk about the Recreation Facility Strategic Plan potentially in July. And I think, Sheila, it would be beneficial when that comes up. I hope that it works in your scheduling that we have a new commissioner to be back to a 5-member panel at that point, a 5-member commission. But I think that will be a very important update and recap of the several years of work. And I think the only challenge I want to reiterate to the skateboard community is that we have a facility strategic plan that involved, there was a lot of community outreach back then, with several meetings and attempts to reach out to a lot of different community groups and user groups. And there were a lot of people that gave input, and there was a whole subcommission in the city that made recommendations and prioritized and threw out things that some people really thought were near and dear to them. And so there are always a lot of competing interests, and that is the unfortunate thing. And we would love to have many more parks and have many more beautiful and updated and well-funded parks. So I think that it will be very helpful to get a good update, Sheila, when we have a full commission of the Recreation Facility Strategic Plan and also of Central Park, because it's been a couple years since we've had the update, and just a recap of what the status that is and where it is. And I know, you mentioned tonight the Central Park playground was something on there, and going back to the master plan process that master plan was approved by council. The only thing identified as happening in any semblance of near term was these playground updates. And that was because of need. That was because of critical need, but there was other things that were also of really high need that were identified at that time of not even being possible, as sort of perpetually being unfunded. So I do think it would be good to have an update on that. And I would encourage us continuing to work with the skateboard community to identify their needs or potentially opportunities and any way we can to meet unmet needs in the community. You never know what we may find in a conversation of an opportunity of finding something in between something. So I say that recognizing that there is no money for anything and we are just doing maintenance projects, but also recognizing that maybe there's an opportunity along the way for something, and having the skateboard community continue to voice those needs and desires may manifest itself in unexpected ways. In a developer looking for a park in lieu project as part of their development, and they may end up proposing a skate park or something that may be a way to accommodate a goal or a need that the Parks Department doesn't have the resources to meet, but because of your advocacy, maybe something can transpire. So again, I'll thank all of the public attendees tonight for their comments. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Sheila.
So thank you, commissioners, and thank you, members of the public who spoke tonight. I did want to respond to the question about the 42nd Avenue skate park that someone had mentioned. That project was over 20 years ago. It was intended to be a temporary skate park until the city was able to construct its own. And so it was never intended to be a long-term skating facility. It was really put together in a period of probably anywhere between 6 and 8 months to try and respond to the demand that we heard 20 years ago about the need for a skate park in San Mateo. Once the skate parks at Beresford and Shoreview were constructed, then that park was never intended to be a long-term skate park in the, from a use standpoint. It is a public work site. I don't know the status of it. I know that it at one point was being considered for some other project in terms of making some improvements into the 42nd Avenue business area, but I don't know the specifics of the status of that particular piece of property. But Drew, you did remember it correctly, but I said it was over 20 years ago then that occurred here in San Mateo. So thank you all for the comments. We'll continue to hope that the money comes in relative to our projections around projects. We will provide an update to the commission in July. We think in July, it may be August, on the recreation facility strategic plan. And I'm also happy at some point to do a more in-depth update in terms of where we are with Central Park, and also remind both this commission and the public about the Central Park master plan that was adopted and what is and isn't included in that master plan from a long-term improvement perspective. So I'm happy to spend some time updating the public and the commission on that as well. And I do have Commissioner or Chair Holm, a couple of other announcements under reports and announcements, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Sorry, do we need to take any action on? No, okay.
This was a review and comment.
Okay.
So we appreciate that. There was some discussion among commissioners before the meeting about returning to in-person meetings. Our city clerk's office is currently working on trying to come up with a schedule for moving into hybrid meetings. That's the desire of the city council, is to continue to still provide opportunities for people to call in, but start to get back to some in-person meetings. I think they're generally scheduling perhaps the July or August meeting for the city council to start those hybrid meetings. And so I think once that starts at the council level, it will begin to trickle down to the commission level as well. So I don't know exactly what that looks like in terms of, does everybody come to a meeting in person? Do some people stay home? But we'll certainly follow the lead of the city clerk in terms of her plan for the city council meetings. At your June meeting, we're hoping to bring in the consultants that have been doing the citywide study on citywide impact fees and give you an update on some of the recommendations that they have come up with around park in lieu and park impact fees. I know that's been an interesting or a subject of interest of this commission for some time. And so the city council will be having a study session, I believe, at their second meeting in May. And so we'll be able to provide you an update, we think in June, with what had been proposed, and also any feedback or considerations that we heard from the city council. So that's tentatively the plan, is to do that at your June meeting. Just try to bring you an update in terms of where that is. I just wanted to remind everybody that our summer program guide is out. We're doing a great job of registrations. We have a number of our summer camp programs already full. We have a good number of our swim lessons that are already full. And so while we certainly won't be back to a full summer program, it will be much more robust than it was last year. And so we are looking to do some preschool programs, in-person preschool programs this year. We're continuing to do some outdoor fitness programs, but we'll be bringing some of those indoor in the summer as well. And we are looking at a modified schedule of some summer concerts at Central Park that will be on a reservation basis. It will be out on the ball field at Fitzgerald Field rather than in the circle area, so we can control crowds a little bit more. So we are looking at doing a modified schedule for the summer concert series, as well as something for the 4th of July. So staff is working on that as well. Looking ahead, I did have a meeting yesterday with our ice skating vendor, and he is planning on bringing back the seasonal ice rink this year, starting in November, which was something that we gave up last year. And I know it's always been a great activity for children and adults in San Mateo. So he is ready to return starting in November, and assuming that all stays well with the pandemic. So I just wanted to give you some updates from a programming perspective in terms of what staff has been working on.
Thank you, Sheila. And one thing I'll comment personally, I would love to continue seeing a hybrid format, because I think it makes public engagement much easier. And if the clerk is having logistical challenges, my employer's been doing public meetings that are hybrid split for several months now. And I'd be happy to put her in touch with our IT director to ask any questions if she has some issues. And we do, with the school board, we do 2 members are on Zoom while 3 are in person. And it's a Zoom meeting, and it's a little weird, but it works, and it still maintains a high level of public engagement, which I think is really one of the silver linings of this going to Zoom experience. So
Great, thank you for that. I'll pass it along to Patrice.
Yeah. And I'll open up to any other commissioners that may have any comments or updates.
I do.
Walnick, yes.
Yes. So first, I wanted to just bring your attention to the general plan. There's going to be a Imagining Scenarios for San Mateo's Future virtual workshop. They've had 2 already. They're having their 3rd on May 18th at 6 p.m. If you haven't participated, I would encourage you to do so. Anyone else who's still listening, we lost all of our attendance, but yeah, so that again is May 18th, beginning at 6 p.m. And if you can't find anything, I'm sure you can email me and I can give you the link. And then the second was a question. So we don't have a vice chair anymore. Are we going to have, we should probably have an election for that in case, because Eric, you have to be at every single meeting unless we have a vice chair. So I don't know if, I guess we probably formally have to put that on the agenda. So I'm asking maybe that gets put on the agenda for our next meeting.
So chairs and vice chairs are typically done in July for all commissions. And so unless you're feeling a need to have one specifically for June, it would typically be in your July meeting that you would elect a new chair and vice chair.
Okay. I mean, I guess as long as Eric is going to be here in June, that's not of concern. And then I guess to follow up, I think Eric was asking about it. Do we have a timeline for filling the vacancy?
I don't have a timeline. I know that the subcommittee from the city council for this commission in terms of interviewing folks will be Mayor Rodriguez, and the city council member liaison is Amarance Lee. And so the council formally took action on Monday night to appoint them as the subcommittee. I suspect that the city clerk will be starting to put information out here in May, looking for people to apply. And generally those interviews will happen in June, and with an appointment at the end of June to then hopefully be on board for your July meeting.
Great.
Thank you very much. Is there any other commissioner comments? Okay, with that, I think we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, Adam, Drew, and Ryan for sticking out to the end from our public attendees, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.